Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world they do that. They get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The standard disclaimer applies. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements, even Virginia's. And make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions or comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on the Facebook event page for episode 162, The Alchemist.
And John's totally not drunk tonight.
Look,
he just can't speak good.
One down, another one to go. Not a lightweight. You know me already, John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Jason, who are you?
My name is Jason Richards, as John already mentioned, a worshipful master of Acacia Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia, and member of the Colonial Lodge number 1821 in the District of Columbia.
Also, we have other host, Juan Sepulveda.
Good evening, brothers. Juan Sepulveda here, a member at large of Orange Blossom Lodge number 80, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast.
And hopefully we'll have Robert joining us soon. Juan, I saw you this week. That was great. I know we had a short beer together too, but it was good catching up down in sunny Orlando.
Very nice. Very, very nice. And I look forward to doing a little bit more of that again when we meet for TMR 300 in DC.
There we go. So in case you haven't heard already, we know plenty of you are sick of hearing about it, but briefly, this June 24th and June 23rd, you can hang out with us and the rest of your brothers to celebrate 300 years of Freemasonry at 300 Freemasonry's Legacy, Freemasonry's Future. Go check out themasonic.roundtable.com/300 to get tickets. See you there.
And I know that there are a couple of brothers that have considered it and have thought about it twice and not necessarily decided to do it. I'll put it this way. This is going to be one of those events that when New Year celebration comes on December 31st, you're going to look back and say, you know what? That was a highlight of my year, where I got a chance to get some Masonic education, meet brothers that I've seen on the interwebs for a long time, and now you get a chance to just hang out with them. And overall, it's going to be a memorable time. So this is one of those highlights of your year. Don't miss out. If there's anything we can do to help you in the process, just let us know. If you have any questions, any comments, we'll be happy to help you.
Great. So up first in Masonic news, we have the Sky One documentary. We've talked about this back a couple months ago when it was first announced. It actually aired the first episode of Inside the Freemasons on Sky One, a European cable news network. And unfortunately, we're Yankees in America, and I've looked different ways. I've trolled Reddit to see if there's any VPN services or anything to get in there. Plus, it's a subscription thing like HBO, so no, can't find the video. Would be nice if they found a way eventually. I heard they're going to cut it to DVD, but we'll see if they painted us in a good light.
Yep. If anybody finds a way to watch it, send us a message.
The question is, will we get that before or after we get Terra Masonica?
Oh, yeah. That should
Good
be
question
as well.
The way things are looking.
Okay. In big news this week, at least for the Northern Virginia area, we found out through friends in the Northern Virginia area, as well as on Chris Hodap's blog, that the charter for Alexandria, Washington, number 22, the Traditional Observance Lodge.
It's traditional observance-ish. It's not official. It's just more the atmosphere
It's
okay.
It's unofficially official. Yeah, they had their charter pulled this week. A big shock to everybody. Now, people have messaged, obviously, Chris Hodap, and because of our proximity, Jason and I have heard some things of not only it's not insider lodge business, because there were other guests there, right? That even from other jurisdictions that aren't beholden to, keep things secret. So we're not in the business of airing dirty laundry here on TMR. However, this is big news when you consider, as Chris Hodat put it, that this is a historic lodge. Yes, it's George Washington's lodge.
Well, it's the one he set up.
Correct.
It's there's debate as to how often he actually sat in it, and whether or not he ever actually presided over it.
Yeah, Sean Iyer will say lack of evidence doesn't mean there's no evidence. So it's just we haven't found it yet. But it's a historic
But the
lodge.
inverse is also true.
Yes. Yeah. Prove there's not a toaster flying around Mars right now. It's not a logical fallacy. Burden of
razor.
It's burden of proof. So in addition, it's at the George Washington National Masonic Memorial.
Now it's one of 3 lodges that meets there, though, John.
Right. But it is one that does donate a lot to the memorial, that actually has a commanding presence there. So no,
yeah, they do quite a bit every single year to help preserve the historic artifacts within the memorial.
Mm-hmm. And the big question we've been asked a couple times is, does this mean TMR 300 is canceled? No, no, we're not hosting this with AW22. It's just, it happens to be at the memorial as well. So big news. What do you guys think about this? Jason, Juan?
So for me, the fact of the matter is the Grand Master is a benevolent dictator. And you see this in every jurisdiction. He has the prerogative and the right to do whatever he pleases, not the least of which is arresting the charter of a lodge for any reason he sees fit. So for me, regardless of, testimony of brethren who were there or personal feelings on the matter, Grand Master is perfectly justified in doing whatever he pleases, and that includes doing this.
Yep. I hate to see that it gets to that point. I mean, I understand there being differences between officers and the Grand Lodge, or the way that things are handled. Seeing it get to that point, because there's some sort of I don't know if shame is the right word for it, but it's I don't know. It's
you get a stigma. You could definitely get a stigma that gets associated. Oh, you were that lodge who had their charter pulled, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
somehow, regardless of what's happening, it looks like, regardless, we don't know what the two sides of the story are. It always is going to look for the lodge than it is for the Grand Master pulling.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the other issues is that this is really, like John mentioned, an historic lodge, and there are brethren from all over the world who come just to visit and sit in this lodge, and it's a real shame. I think there are a lot of us that are really hoping that they do whatever is necessary to get their charter reinstated. And so that this lodge can continue to exist for the long term.
Yeah, all signs point to it being just a temporary matter as they fix some of these issues that the Grand Lodge has. So it should be resolved pretty quickly. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Moving into this week's topic, we have The Alchemist. I think this was, I don't know who suggested this, but I know Juan was the one who really turned this on for me. And so, I mean, really, I'm going to let Juan wind up and take this off, because I want to find out how you learned about the book. How did you come across it? Because when you shared with me, it was, I wouldn't say life-changing, but it was definitely very thoughtful and provocative. And I want to hear, how did you find it? And then we'll go into a little bit about what the plot line is. And big spoiler alert, if you've not read the book, we're going to talk about themes in the book. Consider this a book club, a book review. And we're going to get into not only the themes of the book, but the Masonic elements of that. So if you haven't read the book, stop, go get the book. It's short, and come back and pick it up. Juan, take it away.
Yep. And I want to preface by saying, for those of you who were those who watched the Strange episode, I disappeared from the broadcast unannounced, and it was because I had not had a chance to watch the movie, and I really wanted to watch it before listening to the discussion. So I excused myself, and then I came back after I watched the movie. Then I went and finished the episode. So for me, the experience I've had with this book has been strong enough that I would comfortably suggest, if you haven't read the book, this is one that you want to read this week and come back to the episode so that you can get the full experience, because we're not going to hold back. We're going to talk about the book as if you read it. And yeah, I would hate for you to miss out. Well, the way that I found the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is that when I used to work at a Fortune 500 company, and I was a supervisor of a group, and I was working quite a bit in the computer, and something happened that it exacerbated a condition that I had of tendonitis in my elbows. And it got very, very bad, where I was getting studies done of my nerves, and it was a bad moment. I became very depressed because I made a living, in addition to working at that company. I had the hopes of becoming a professional artist. And here my arms were being compromised by a condition that, can be improved upon, but it's likely to follow you for the rest of your life. So it got so bad that I had to go out on a medical leave for quite some time. And the pain was so much that I couldn't even hold a book to read. That's how bad it was. And I had to read, and I had bought a copy of The Alchemist. When I started reading this book, it opened up my eyes to what the next decisions of my life had to be. So the overarching story is that there's a man on a journey looking for a treasure. And I identify myself with that story and the obstacles and opportunities that he found along the way, to a degree that I made a decision to leave an upward mobile position in a very secure company to pursue my dream of making a living as an artist. That's how I found this book, and that's how much of an impact it had on me. So we'll go on from there, so that
Sure.
you can share some of the ideas of impact.
Right. So again, to elaborate on the plot, it is a typical hero's journey book, and I've said it before, so I'm going to spoil every story from you from now on. That it follows the monomyth that's found in the hero's journey. We've talked a little bit about that in the past. The guy leaves home, called to adventure, runs into a mystic friend who helps him overcome an obstacle, and has to push through the obstacle in order to get back home fully changed. There's the plot. Except in this case, it is a boy who's a shepherd, and has recurring dreams about treasure. He goes on a journey to find this treasure at the pyramids in Egypt. And along the way, he meets an alchemist who helps him discover his true self through the soul of the world, and comes back home to find that treasure. So that's it in a nutshell. It's a very short book, but a very good book. Now, there are some themes that go through that. One thing that I'd heard before I read it the first time, and I'm glad I did, is when you read it as an allegory. Don't read it as a bedtime story. Think about what that character represents. What is he trying to do? If you were that character, what does that mean for you, as Juan alluded to? So that's step one, is think about it not as the literal, but what's behind the text, and what that means to your story, right? What is your journey that you're going on? And it could be anything, as Juan said, he applied it directly to his life. But Jason, you had some notes here on the show notes about how it's similar to other self-help and other
Well, so first and foremost, we have to give due deference to the tale Arabian Nights, specifically the short story, The Story of the Two Dreamers, within that tome, Arabian Nights, by J.L. Bourges in 1935, because there's a Reddit thread that I'll post on the Facebook page. It's literally like why I hate the Alchemist, and it retells this little short story that is literally the plot of the Alchemist, but condensed about 100 times.
Yeah.
So
Leave it to Reddit to go on a tangent of why they hate stuff.
Spoil things, right?
yes. So the something that struck me as really interesting as I was finishing it up last night. I kind of laughed to myself because it's very much the epic retelling of the book Who Moved My Cheese. Because if you look at it, it's you're striving toward your destiny, but the situation is constantly causing you to pivot, and it's very much the same premise of the self-help book Who Moved My Cheese, and of course I say that tongue-in-cheek because of course Who Moved My Cheese came much later than this book, but it's really interesting because you get very invested in the main character, and at least I did, and every time he met with an obstruction, I was just rooting for him and trying to help him get to his goal alongside him. It's just a beautiful book, and absolutely loved every minute of it.
All right, so let's go through some of the themes that are there. The first one that I was looking for, right? We've talked about mysticism in Freemasonry. There's alchemy, right? The Alchemist. I wanted to learn some alchemy in this book, and what I think they did a really good job. I don't know what his alchemical background is, Paulo Coelho, but he does do a very good job in summarizing the operative and speculative versions of alchemy, and how there's the Englishman who's on the journey as well, who's really only thinking about it from the operative way. He wants to turn lead into gold, and then how the alchemist really teaches the boy to apply it
Speculative.
Right. So I thought that was a really neat theme. Juan, what was another theme you saw in the book?
The other theme that I noticed, and I think it's important because it reflected a lot of the things in my life, is the constant visit of doubt and vulnerability. That's a theme that you see throughout the book, and you can see how it either affects, how it detracts or motivates the character. And as we go through life, it is something that happens to us. You might have doubts of either your personal legend, as it's described in the book, which is like your purpose or the reason or your mission, or you might have doubts of your capacity to do things, of achieving things, and you can use that doubt to either stand firmly and either supplement what you have so that you can achieve those things, or you can succumb to it and then turn around and not continue your journey. So I like that the theme is visited time and time again, and it shows that vulnerability to the character, which sometimes he overcomes by his own determination, and other times he is completely vulnerable to it and depends on somebody else motivating him further, which alludes to what we experience in Masonry, where we might have moments of elation, where we are in love with Masonry and with everything it stands for. We might be able to shake that off on our own, but in other times we need a brother. We need that support of someone who says, I understand why you feel like that, and here's how I overcame, or here's what you can focus on so you can continue your journey of perfecting your ashlar.
Jason, you have another theme that you saw throughout the book?
Yeah, so something that that made an immediate impact on me was the theme of destitution. And this is specifically after the boy arrives in Tangier, and he has sold all of his sheep, and he has just been robbed of all of his money. So he's in Morocco without a care in the world, and there's a specific part in the book where he is destitute. He's literally penniless except for these two omen stones that he has, and he just completely flips his perspective. And he's just like, well, at this point, I don't have anything holding me back. I can do absolutely anything I want. But it makes a specific reference to the change in perspective that comes with complete and utter destitution. And folks who are familiar with Masonry know that destitution plays a big part in some of the Blue Lodge teachings. And it's really that perspective that, you recognize how entirely destitute you are, so that you can recognize it in other people and help out other people who are less fortunate. And so it's just something that I really keyed into in this book specifically, to say destitution really forces us to change our perspective, not only about ourselves and our situation, but also about others who may be even less fortunate than we are.
And that's why we should raise lodge dues to become more
Yes.
destitute, so you appreciate the finer things in life.
We just raise the Grand Lodge per capita so Masons can become destitute. Sweet.
Let's see. The next theme I saw throughout was the law of positive attraction. We've talked about the secret. We've talked about alchemy as creation, as aspiring, putting your whole thought and desire into something so that it happens. And that really is an underlying theme in the entire book. There's a really good quote, that basically says, early on, the boy approaches a king who says that, once you know what your personal legend is, and you really truly embrace it and embody it, and that's you're determined to achieve your personal legend, then the entire world will conspire to help you achieve it. And that
It's
line,
that beginner's luck.
that one line really stuck with me, because it's so true that whether you call it beginner's luck, whether you call it stick-to-itiveness or grit. I mean, there's even recent books called Grit about how there are actually psychological studies that have been shown that even kids with lesser intelligence, because they have persistence and grit, will actually perform better in specific tasks and later in life as well. So that is a good theme to take away from the law of positive attraction. Juan, what else have you got?
Yeah, I did want to, speak on that, because that was a very important part of the book. It's a lesson that continued to give to my personal experience, and it's that when the whole universe conspiring towards your personal legend. And there have been moments in my life where I believe that, and other moments in which I say that is complete BS. You just happen to be prepared when the opportunity arises. But it's almost like, asking what came first, the chicken or the egg. The thing is, like, if you're working towards the fulfillment of your personal legend or your vision and mission, then you might be more attuned whenever those opportunities arise. And in addition, you might be prepared to take full advantage of those opportunities. And that, for me, that's how my life has been. I have achieved things in my life that I am very proud of. And
we're glad that you can grow facial hair too.
Yes, it kind of happened a little. It's not as neat as I would like it to be, but the thing is that there are moments that if I am prepared and opportunity arises, I can comfortably say, yeah, this is the moment. Like, this is an opportunity for me, and I can jump with full force and materialize it. Whereas if you're not working towards the fulfillment of your personal legend and an opportunity arises, there's not much you can do. You might completely squander the opportunity or spoil it altogether and prevent yourself from achieving that in the future. So
there's the other part of that, though, Juan. Remember when the boy is, has passed the monastery, and the alchemist has turned the lead into gold, and he's given the boy one piece, and then he said, okay, monk, here's a piece for you, and here's another piece for the boy when he needs it, because he's probably going to. And he tells the boy that the hardest part of your journey is yet to come, and that is right before you reach that fulfillment. And it brings me back to some of the lessons in Masonry of perseverance and holding out faithful to the end. Specifically, something that the boy remembers hearing, when he was a younger child, was the night is always darkest just before the dawn. And that's something that I think rings very true with us as well. When we are most anxious about an endeavor or a pursuit, or the cards seem stacked against us the most, that is where we really need to persevere and break through that moment of doubt and that moment of uncertainty, to reach that end goal or that reward. And we've all experienced this. The universe conspires with us to give us that initial burst. However, it also conspires against us right before we reach that goal. And so that's just something that is another beautiful piece of this book, that we can directly tie to influences in the Masonic ritual.
Now, when I read it this time, another theme that I picked up on was regret. There's a couple times where the boy asked the alchemist, "Well, what about why can't I just stop here and I can be happy? I have more money than when I came. I could go back home. I could be a great shepherd, or I could just get married and settle in.
I got the girl." Yeah.
So, but then there was the crystal shop owner as well. That there are multiple times throughout the book where, yeah, you can have an okay life, not achieving your personal legend, but you'll always have regret. So you could settle down, but in a year from now, 2 years from now, you're gonna have that itch again. And so to me, that's a good motivator to say, if you're thinking about doing something, there's a reason why you're thinking about it, and not to put things off. One of my favorite quotes lately has been, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is right now. So don't put things off, because you're just going to have regret later.
Yeah.
And so if you think you want to do it, now's the best time.
Now, I want to share with you an insight that I realized after reading some things about coincidences in history. And I could be completely wrong, but I think I'm close to truth with this way of thinking. And I want to give you a couple of examples. You have the creation of the telephone, where you have, was it Bell? Alexander Graham Bell. And you had the Italian man, what's his name? Think about it. Somebody, Twitter.
Mr. Telefono.
Mr. Telefonini. I want to say Fergamo, but I might be wrong. Anyway, so this is happening.
Chef Boyardee.
That's the one. It's happening around the same time in two different sides of the world, but at the precise moment in history. Almost as if saying, this is the moment in which that legend has to materialize. This is the moment in which the telephone or the telecommunication has to be developed. So think about this. If you are Alexander Graham Bell, and you are working on the development of this mode of communication, you are embracing the responsibility bestowed upon you by the universe to develop this now. That same responsibility, it's almost put in the hands of this other Italian man who didn't make it, bring it to fruition. But it's almost as the universe saying, this has to happen now for whatever reason that we may not understand. So you may have a personal legend and you can decide not to pursue it. But if that is something that has to happen today or this year, I think there is somebody else who also is moved to make that happen. So don't, with this, I'm not saying, oh, we'll just give up because somebody else is going to do. No, take that responsibility seriously and make sure that if your heart is moved to achieving something, to doing something of significance in your life, the life of the people you love, take that seriously and take it to its fullest development if you can.
Yeah, you're thinking of Antonio Meucci.
Antonio.
And that reminds me too of Sir Isaac Newton also had documented his findings of laws of motion and gravity around the same time as another competitor, right? So there's these common themes. I can see where you're going with that. Okay, Jason. Hit the wrong button. Jason, give me some Masonic themes that are byproducts of this theme, this book.
So actually every theme that I've given tonight has had a Masonic, a direct Masonic tie into it. I did have something else though. Your paths can take you on a myriad of different routes and different journeys, but you're all of them kind of end up advancing in the same cardinal direction to your end goal, to your destiny. And in Masonry, that's very much the way we navigate the appendant bodies, looking for more knowledge and more light. So if our goal is truly enlightenment, truth, to become good men who are better men, then the teachings of Freemasonry, specifically the first 3 degrees, but then also the higher degrees and various appendant bodies as well, are our way of embarking on that winding journey in order to seek and eventually obtain that that sanctification and that becoming of a better man. So that was one of the specific Masonic themes that I pulled out of it. So don't, as you're a Mason, I would say don't be afraid to try new things, check out new degrees, read new things, because you never know what'll click in your mind, and give you a really good perspective, a really new perspective on something.
Yeah, I think let me elaborate on that and how I've taken that as well. Is to me, it's that draw, right? Why do we keep doing the show every week? Why am I fascinated in reading different things about Masonry? It's that I want to learn more, but it's to continue to improve, right? To continue to learn and improve myself in Masonry. And to that point, another idea is, or a Masonic theme, I think, that could be taken out of this is, in most jurisdictions, we have the catchphrase, to be one, ask one, meaning that we don't do active recruiting. Ergo, if you are considering joining a lodge, you have to take the first step. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to go off and start the journey yourself. No one's going to start the journey for you. Once you take that first step, we'll welcome you usually with open arms. And so I like that concept, and that even that reason why we have that process in place is we can lead you to the door, but you have to knock. So I think that theme is also true, that he had to get out of his comfort zone, as you were alluding to, and try new things and get out there, and it made him a better protagonist. Yep.
and taking that first step also reminds me of the fact that sometimes we think that the answers to our questions are without, and instead they are within. You might be looking outside for some answers, but part of your journey comes the recognition of knowing that what you're looking for, it's still at the source. I don't want to say too much, but it's at the source. So you might be looking outside for answers, and you oftentimes you have the answers to the questions you may have.
But you need to go on that journey anyway to change your perspective to the point where you can recognize it in yourself.
Love it. Love it. That's so good. That's so good.
I have my moment.
This is going in the highlight reel.
Yes.
There's another
deleted scene section of the DVD.
Yeah. There's another Masonic parallel that I found, and it's the
what have you got there?
The Urim and Thummim. And
nice.
It made me think, these are the stones that traditionally were used by the Jewish
high
priests, right?
Yeah, the high. I've heard it described as the only modes of divination allowed by the Creator.
And the book actually states that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the book.
So it's a tool to help you make decisions, or to help you see, a yes or a no answer, almost like that little black ball that the answer black ball. But the parallel I see is twofold. Number one is our way of voting, yes and no, is by stones of different colors. But also the mosaic pavement in our lodge, which represents the bad, that mixture in life of the positive and the negative. And you have to walk through it. In your Masonic journey, literally, you have to walk through it. But in real life, you do as well. And some positive experiences that you may have and some negative, the positive don't always encourage and the negative detract. Sometimes you have to be objective and look and maybe fuel your energy by the positive and negative. See what I'm saying? Like, just because something bad happened in your journey doesn't mean, okay, this is a sign that I have to stop. Not necessarily. Sometimes that is there to make you stronger, to make you value the moments in which you're not going through difficulties. So there are a lot of parallels there in the book. You have the positive and negative things he encounters and how they affect the continuation of his journey.
So the last theme that I'll get into before I let Jason take over the social media aspect, I've had a lot of good comments both on YouTube and Facebook tonight, is really the one we kind of overlooked and assumed, which was introspection itself, right? As you go through the journey, think about how this applies to you. How is it making you a better person? Are you satisfied with your current situation? Could you be better? Could you be a better person? And the thing that really kind of keeps me up at night is, what is your personal journey, right? Are you fulfilling your destiny? Are you doing what you were put on here for the Creator to do? You only have so many years in your life. Are you actually applying that for what you were meant to do? And only you can figure that out. So Jason, how's social media tonight?
Social media is awesome. John, I'll start working on the comments, but I realize I am using two separate browsers because Google Hangouts doesn't work in Firefox anymore. So I'm going to need you to share your screen with the awesome meme that Masonic Memes set up for us tonight. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Brother Michael Overturf mentions that yes, this really is about the full circle. The treasure was always right there, but you need to journey first, and that's such a cool theme because as far as the Masonic journey goes, it's how do you become a better man? You get to know yourself through experiencing other things that brings you right back to an improved version of yourself. So you really are the start and finish of your Masonic journey. Another interesting comment we have is from Brother Mike Hambrecht, Mike the intern, who says, the part that interests me is that there are outside influence keeping Santiago on his path to his personal legend. Even though he decides um, or makes the decision, there are those who know his path that insistently tell him why he shouldn't give up or shouldn't do this or that. So you can't discount per se the wise counsel of your brethren. And so going back to Masonic memes, this is absolutely great. It's like a worshipful master is doing it wrong. What do you know? You haven't even returned your EA yet. Never mind the ritual book. We'll do it my way. So,
Of an alchemy lab. Funny stuff because we've all been there. We've all we've all heard different versions of the ritual as people can remember.
So Donnie, we appreciate you. And Donnie, if you're not the person behind Masonic memes, then you should be. But we appreciate the guys at Masonic memes as well. And speaking of Donnie Dillon, he says, Dankan por via rescasco pri la alchemisto nun lernu esperanton kaj continui via vogajon gis fratoj, which is probably a bastardized pronunciation of thank you for your webcast about the Alchemist. Now learn Esperanto and continue your journey. Later, brothers.
Oh, I know if Nick Johnson were here, he'd be nerding out on Esperanto right now and probably finish the show that way.
But he's not. So Jacob Bernard mentions that he says, while it sucks attending the Scottish Rite 100 miles away, the best part is the introspection and reflection after attending a meeting or degree on the way home.
Hey, there's a journey home full of introspection. Look at that.
Yes, and winding roads, and if you have to stop and get gas, I think we're taking it a bit too far, but
I like it.
Brother Michael Overturf says, there's another major theme to this story, which is that of contentment, and being happy where you are, and that's a theme that I picked up on. Really was being content with the present. I went up to New York and back with a good friend over the weekend, and one of the things that we talked about was the old adage, those who live in the future are have anxiety, and then those who live in the past dwell on regret, but those who live in the present are those who are truly content and truly happy. So that's and I think and Mike Hambrecht says this could also be defined as complacency, but at the same time I think it's complacency if you're complacent, you're not necessarily content, because I think contentment has to have some sort of drive to it, to say this might not be where I want to be later on in life. However, I'm really happy where I am now. Whereas I see complacency as laziness and almost something where someone has just kind of given up all their drive and all their hope. Like what would have happened to Santiago had he stayed in the oasis with Fatima and the tribe?
It would have been a shorter book.
It would have been a shorter book, yes. So, and Mike Hambrecht, if you guys haven't seen it, also posted a map detailing out the places in the book and where they fell on the map, which was pretty neat.
Cool.
And that's what we got, at least on the Facebooks.
Right. So let's start wrapping things up. And I will start with Juan, who was my inspiration for finding the book. Juan, what are your final thoughts on The Alchemist?
I, of course, love the book. It is one of my favorite books. It had a lot of significance in the changes that I made in my life. I can't regret. I mean, I'm happy where life has taken me thus far, and I hope that this book or other books can do that for you. You know, it's like you will never know what you'll learn from a gem like this one unless you pick it up and give yourself a chance. So if you end up reading the book, let us know what you think. Let us know if you picked up on a different theme or a different lesson that that we might have missed. We would love to hear your opinion about it. And you know, I really enjoyed the conversation. Like, this is not 100% Masonic, but there are some things there that remind us of it, and I hope that you find it edifying. So thank you to all the brothers who helped us reach 10,000 likes on Facebook. What? That's a big number.
It's just a vanity metric. Up and to the right.
For the win.
Don't feel good. Yeah.
We've got more likes than the Facebook pages of most Grand Lodges I visit,
who have, tens of thousands of members already.
Yep. Yeah, vanity metrics. There's something so satisfying about them. They do nothing for the pocket or anything, but if you've liked our page and you like our content, thank you. And if you know of anybody else who could benefit from it, could derive some inspiration for their life, please share with them. You know, we hear from brothers from all over the world pretty much every week about something that they've learned or something that has influenced them from the show. And, we're humbled by it. We do this because we love doing it. And, I think it's a blessing that other people can benefit from us geeking out on something we really love. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. And lastly, talking about geeking out, the best chance you'll have to geek out about Masonry is going to be June 23rd and 24th in Alexandria, Virginia. Make sure you get your ticket now and you join us. It's we've already put links on the MasonicRoundtable.com for the tickets, and we've found some very convenient hotels, locations, and rates. So if you do reserve, just let them know TMR Con, and they'll give you a special rate. So
try to come in the 23rd if you can. I can tell you we got some things in the work, and it'll be hot.
Yep, it will be hot. Thank you, brothers.
Cool, thanks. Jason, final thoughts.
Let's see. So I didn't actually get a chance to read this until yesterday during my day off of work, which wasn't really a day off because I had the kid for about 6 or 7 hours. It is a beautiful book. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I actually didn't take the advice first, and I actually kind of read it as a bedtime story, and then went through it again, looking at it more allegorically, and it is just so jam-packed with symbolism and with personal meaning. I mean, the self-interpret or the interpretation, allegorical interpretation that you can do of this book and application to your own life is absolutely phenomenal, and the possibilities really are endless. This is a very much a coming of age hero's journey story to which many of us can relate. And so if you haven't read it, I definitely would recommend going ahead and checking it out. We've got a link to the PDF on the site. It's 94 pages. It is a very, very quick, very easy read. So check it out. Thanks so much to the Brethren of Port Jervis Lodge up in Port Jervis, New York. I had a great time presenting a brand new presentation to them, Operative to Speculative, the Evolution of Early Scottish Freemasonry, where I went through about 800 years of operative and speculative Masonic history in the span of about 45 minutes. So really, really great turnout, and got a lot of really good feedback. So thank you so much. And for those of you in the DC area, I'm going to be giving it at the Patriot Lodge during their June stated. And they're probably not going to let me speak for 45 minutes, so I'll have to trim it down a bit. But I cover Renaissance philosophy like Neoplatonism, Hermetic philosophy, Rosicrucianism, even dip into the art of memory a little bit. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and it's really great.
I know a guy. I'll help make it happen.
Oh, it's already happened.
No, the whole 45-minute version.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
It's
Thank
worth it. It's really good.
Can't wait. I'm sure you're going to go off on a whole bunch of Russian Freemasonry history tangents as well. So
that's another one I can do.
I bet. Great job again on that one. So my final thoughts, I really think due to the themes of introspection and taking action and continuing your journey to find your personal legend, I really think Michael Overturf summarized it well on our Facebook page, where he said, "This is an awesome book. It should be mandatory reading for all new Masons." Right? I would go with that. I think that would be a good thing that any mentor of any new Mason could probably hand out. It's a short, cheap book, but it helps, codify those themes that we try to portray in Masonry of taking good men and making them better. All right, so that's all I got. See you in June. Thanks for watching. See you next week, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.